Alrighty, so in the last video, we did some multiplication of our complex number. Now we're going to divide with complex numbers. We're going to have an old man yells at cloud moments right here because, oh my gosh, I need you to drill this into, I'm going to use red because that's how much. We hate I in the denominator. And if you don't, oh my gosh, you should. It is an irrational and unholy fear, or an unholy hate. And here is why. Here's why we don't like I in the denominator. Remember, I is really a square root. And we cannot tolerate square roots in the denominator. So we cannot tolerate i's in the denominator because I is a square root. We're going to get rid of it. Now the question becomes, how are we going to get rid of it? Well, that's going to require a little bit of multiplication. I've showed you a little bit of a shortcut. I know it goes in the face of what I said in another video where I said, hey, you guys discover shortcuts. I don't teach them. But I know, whatever. So let's take this. Here's my I in the denominator. We're going to use what's called a complex conjugate. So I am going to multiply both numerator and denominator by the complex conjugate of 5 minus I. So the complex conjugate means keep the values the same. The 5 and the I, just change the sign. And if I do it on bottom, I have to do it on top. Okay, since I'm going to do some, we're going to take these two values and we're going to multiply them together. We're going to multiply those two values together. So I'm going to take, and I'm going to write, let's do this. Let me get that color going so we can see where I'm writing my answer and why I'm writing it. Here we go. So we're going to take 3 and distribute it into the parentheses. So 3 times 5 is 15 plus 3i. And then do 2i distributed into parentheses plus 10i plus 2i squared. All over. We're going to do the same thing now with the denominators. I'm going to distribute with the denominators. And we're going to notice something fun happens, like if you worked on that last problem on your own, exercise 5, example 5, number C, letter C. Did you find out something fun? So 5 times 5, that's going to give me 25. 5 times I is a positive 5i. Negative I times 5 is negative 5i. And negative I times positive I is negative I squared. So on top, let's go ahead and combine our like terms. So 15 minus 2. So, let's do it out longhand. 15 plus 13i minus 2. I squared is negative 1. I squared is negative 1. Negative 1 times 2 is minus 2. All over 25. 5i minus 5i. Those i's cancel out. And we already said I squared is negative 1. No i's on the bottom. So that's going to leave us with 13 plus 13i all over 26. Now, if you notice, we're not quite done because 13 and 26 all have a common factor because we're going to write this as 13 over 26 plus 13i over 26 because we want our answer in the standard form, which says write it as a real number and an imaginary number. So 13 over 26 is 1/2 plus I over 2. Or some people like to say 1/2 I. Either way is good. Now sometimes to get rid of the I on the bottom, we're not going to need a complex conjugate. Okay? Because it's not a binomial, it's not a complex term, it's just an imaginary term. I am going to multiply both top and bottom by I. So on top, I'm going to have 3i. I times I in the denominator is I squared. So I'll have 3i over negative 1. Nobody says that. We just say negative 3i. Nothing else we can do. You might, I'm fine with it written like this. I actually prefer it written like this. Some people will say there is 0 real portion and then negative 3i for the imaginary portion. I much prefer this on top. Alrighty, because here you can clearly see there is no real portion. It's all imaginary. No real, all imaginary. Alrighty, so as always, if you have any questions, please come in with those questions so we can get them answered. And I'll see you when I see you. Oops, forgot to hit the pause button.